Happy Sunday, Smite fans, and welcome back to the final day of the SCC Championships. We have 4 teams playing today, but only 2 of those are going to move on to the SWC group stage in January. We're going to decide all of that with our 3 matchups today, but I certainly can't do it alone. I'm DameNWK, and I got Trelly joining me on the desk to help me through our first set today of 3 to determine who those 2 teams that are going to move on to the SWC group stage is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting one. We've been waiting a couple weeks. I mean, I guess in this case we waited 1 week for the EU one and now 1 week for the NA one, so this is what we've been building up to.
And all of this, again, for a chance to make it to the Smite World Championship through our road to Worlds. We only have a couple of stages left before we hit the actual Smite World Championship. We've already done our Phase 3 playoffs. We've already gone through the Road to Worlds for EU SCC. Now we're on our final day for the North American SCC. And again, top 2 from this event, the top 2 from the previous event with EU, and then the 4 SPL teams who did not make it to the Smite World Championship through the Phase 3 playoffs will all be playing in the SWC group stage on January 5th through 8th. Then we'll take the top 4 teams from there, and they'll jump into the Smite World Championship January 13th through the 15th in Arlington, Texas at the eSports Arena. So win games, make it to Worlds. Now let's take a look at what those 4 teams for NA that are still competing for their slots are as we jump over into the bracket. The first match of the day is actually going to be on the lower side of our bracket. It's going to be the Xibalba Storm and the Kaolin Wardens facing off. Loser of that match goes home. They're done. Winner will move on and await to see who their final opponent will be between the loser of the Eldritch Hounds and the Athenian Sages. The winner of that match will be your first of the NA teams to qualify to the SWC group stage. Loser of that one will face the winner of this first match, and then we'll send the winner of that one alongside the Eldritch Hounds to be your top 2 North American Smite Challenger Circuit champions to join, again, the ranks with the 2 EU teams that made it last week and the other 4 SPL teams to see who's going to make it to the Smite World Championship. In our first match, like I said, Kaolin Wardens and the Xibalba Storm kind of facing off here. And this has kind of been a bit of a harder trek for the Xibalba Storm trail. I mean, at the beginning of the week, like second or third set of the day that we jumped into with them, it wasn't a great one for the Storm. They kind of got ran over by the Yomi Tanuki, and so they've had to go through the losers bracket all the way through. Now they got to jump through the losers bracket again to see if they can have that chance to qualify through, where Kaolin Wardens have kind of had a little bit of back and forth. They've had some success on the winner side, some success on the loser side, all to come to this point here. And I think for this, kind of where a lot of the attention has been for both these teams, or at least some of the players that have stolen a lot of the attention, have got to be the Hunters, especially for a team like the Xibalba Storm. I really have been loving what we've been seeing out of InMyZen in this tournament.
Yeah, I think Zen has actually been zoned in after that first match, right? The first loss versus the Tanuki kind of woke them up, and I've been really impressed. And also just, it's fun to watch because as of recently, the duo lane has kind of been looking like 3 specific gods. But Zen added in the Rama. The snipes have been really exciting to watch, and I think just the hard carry potential on this character has been slept on for a bit just because Rama doesn't have the safest early game. He doesn't have the strongest pressure, and you're not going to be getting first blood 2 minutes into the game when you pick a god like this. But if you can ride it out, get to 20, 25 plus minutes when you're full build, you can just shred through absolutely everyone. And InMyZen has been showing just how much damage you can do on a pick like Rama, especially if your snipes are on point. So it's been an absolute pleasure to watch him pilot this character and just play into the duo lane, despite the fact that there's been a lot of pressure put towards the duo for pretty much every team in this circuit. It's been, hey, can we get Interceptor? Can we invade purple buffs? Can we win the fight at level 3? And if so, usually the lane looks a little bit rough, but I think Zen's shown, as long as you dial it back and get your farm, late game is always going to be looking nice for these Hunters.
Yeah, and it really feels like, you know, specifically in this matchup against Plover Bottoms, the SOC team, this is where it kind of felt like the awakening moment for the Xibalba Storm, and especially for a player like Zen, where he kind of got that confidence boost. How many Hunters are seeing a Khepri W key at them, and instead of like turning and trying to turn around to break the wall to get out, you turn right back to the Khepri and you just start blasting at him instead. You jolt immediately into him as well on the E-Star. Not many Hunters are doing something like that, but Zen's confidence in this tournament has really skyrocketed so far, and it's now led him up to this matchup to be 2 sets away from going to the SWC group stage. But he's got to go through the Kaolin Wardens, and in his lane directly, he's got to go through oGryph, which I think these 2 Hunters have been sharing kind of those top 2, top 3 style of Hunters, whether that be the Cernunnos, the E-Star, or even this Ram, as you highlighted, that's kind of pumped its way up into the meta.
Yeah, Gryph Unfortunately for Zen, Griff has also been popping up. I think both of these hunters have been looking extremely clean, especially relative to how well their team was doing at the time. Like, even when the team was down, Griff is looking good. He's always got a solid stat line, usually able to find some early kills. He's not one to turn away from the 1v1 engagements. You know, he'll take those 1v1s with you. He'll fight at your purple buff. He'll look to get kills level 2, that sort of thing. So, a very interesting matchup for sure. And I think if the idea is playing through duo lane pressure, both of these teams have a hunter that can hard carry the game away. Both of these teams can look towards duo lane, invade purple buffs, try and just pick one person, in this case Griff and Zen, and say, hey, we're trying to play through this player through the entirety of the match. So it's going to be an interesting one, and I imagine both junglers, specifically Schlemy and Dame, are going to be hanging out in this duo lane a fair bit.
Yeah, and I think as we've been seeing kind of this ROM jump up, we've seen a lot less of the Cupid this weekend. It feels like really only like Dude Man Bro is consistently playing the Cupid over on the side of like the Eldritch Hounds. It really feels like this ROM has kind of found his home over in the duo lane, whether that be through that yellow number style of build, just get a lot of that attack speed, a lot of those in-hand procs, or whether it be the crit or even a hybrid build. Feels like it's a perfect stand-in, at least for this ROM pick. So we'll see if at least maybe the Ishtar makes it through. That's kind of, at least between the Hunters, kind of been the #1 selection for a lot of these teams if it's left open in that first pick. But I think also just in general, this duo lane has been probably the most contested amongst the picks and bans, whether it's the Hunters or whether it's the supports. We'll see what does get banned out and picked up early in the picks and bans for game #1 between the Kaolin Wardens and the Xibalba Storm. Elimination on the line for one of these two teams. Either one of them is going home and one of them is moving on to see who will face off in their final set to see who qualifies the SWC group stage. Between the Hunters, we kind of talked a lot about the top three. You've been seeing this DaMNWK make her way through the bans. But specifically, what I wanted to kind of dial in, Charlie, is been this Athena. It has kind of been the talk of the town right now. Priv brought it in very early in the tournament, and it seems that this Athena has had a lot of staying power.
Yeah, it seems like this Athena's here to stay. I don't imagine that any one of these teams want to face it, because so many gods at the moment from support are, hey, if we have my ult, we can engage. In Athena's case, she doesn't need that. She can dash taunt, reset, and do it again, time and time again, burn those beads, and it's super annoying to deal with. Getting the Vulcan first pick is a little bit surprising because of how much contested the ADCs have been, but with Ishtar banned, it looks like neither one of these squads are really focused on grabbing the Cern, more so that Rama grabbing it for InMyZen for the Xibalba Storm. But still, if you're going to get moswal onto the Vulcan this early on, that's intimidating.
And one of the things I noticed from last week to this week, Charlie, that's kind of different is, you know, we had those top three Hunters. We had the Rom, the Ishtar, the Cupid. Those were kind of sitting there. For EU, Charybdis was kind of the go-to for a lot of those Hunters there, if, you know, if those three were taken away or banned out. But the Rom seems to be the answer for North America. It'll be coupled alongside a Maui for the Xibalba Storm. Kaolin Wardens, they'll take the Vulcan, and then the Cernunnos, since the ROM has been picked up, and currently hovering over the Nike as well. And this Nike is really going, more often than not for this team, over into the jungle for Schlemy.
Yeah, I'd be surprised to see it locked in. I know Schlemy likes it, but I still have not seen too much of that value. There was a couple games where I was like, all right, Schlemy, you've proven it to me. My bad. The Nike popped off, and I agree, but Elimination Day, first game, bringing out the Nike, that shows some confidence, and I guess you just want early pressure as well as some safety in the jungle. But Dame doesn't want those things. Dame wants early aggression and also semi-global presence with the Ratatoskr, and this is a pick that he loves to go to. Sometimes going on the Hidden Blade with the Mannequin Scepter, just trying to 100-0 you off of the ultimate. Sometimes going out of the jungle, but either way, you're going to know this Rat's presence and you're going to know it early on.
I'm curious as to see what Delnyyy might be going for. Now, we did see this Ratatoskr go to RelentlessOne in the solo at one point, so always a possibility that this one could be going to the solo as opposed to jumping itself into the jungle. But if this Ratatoskr is going over into the jungle at this time for Dame, then I do wonder what we might be seeing for that solo lane. The Hades is still left open as we go through the bans. Two assassins banned away with Pele and Lancelot, and then Scylla and the Morgan banned by the Kaolin Wardens. That leaves a Merlin first pick open for the Xibalba Storm. And then Khepri. It feels like it's been a while since we've seen consistent Khepri picks, Trelly.
Yeah, I'm guessing the Wardens have done a bit of their homework and know that, you know, Dame likes to go for a full blast Ratatoskr build. So if you res that, then Rat loses the ult. The end gets a little bit worse. Would not be surprised if we saw a tier pick up here. That's something that Delnyyy likes to go to a fair bit. not going to be banned away, so could be something the Storm are looking to hover. But the Guan also brings a similar level of safety and engage, but the added benefit of some sustain into your kit, and that is going to be what the Storm go for. So I'm imagining positioning going to be pretty big here, as long as you can save that Khepri ult and Geno can play very far back and say, hey, Rat's ulting, okay, I got you, let's leave, and then re-engage after. That Khepri ult should be able to get a fair bit of value.
So maybe some solo lane slap boxing now between the Nike and the Guan. Some good initiation from the Xibalba Storm and some good disengage for the Kaolin Wardens. Which of these two teams is going to start the set off hot? We're going to jump into game number 1 with Dulcin and Gormizer.
That's right. Now, the impact of these games, the pressure starting to mount up as we get further along in the weekend. One final day in the North American Smite Challenger Circuit Championship, and one final day of competitive Smite here in the year 2022, Gormizer. We are just around the corner.
Hold on. When you say it like that, that like hits.
That's right.
That's too deep. Too
That's
much
right.
to the core.
This is it. This is it for the year.
Oh, no.
And then we'll take a couple weeks off, and we'll be right back with World's group stages.
Yeah, the thing
early in
about
January.
that, the next thing that we do is like the start, in a way,
Like the
of
start
the World
of Worlds.
Championship.
It absolutely is. The first round of Worlds, we're finding the final 4 teams.
Within a week of that, we'll be flying to Arlington.
We'll be flying to Arlington, and we'll be casting Worlds live with fans.
I'm going to
It'll
be in
fantastic.
like 3 different states within a week of each other.
I'm going to be in 2 different
countries.
continents.
Yeah, continents.
I'll be in France over New Year's and right back at it. And one of these 2 teams hoping to be with us in January at the Smite World Championship group stages, but it's got to start now. One more best of 3 to move forward in this competition.
Yeah.
Not qualified just yet. This is an elimination match, not a promotion match. So you're staving off elimination with a win here in this one. And the Xibalba Storm Core, I mean, they've really started to heat up their gameplay over the course of this weekend. A team that came in, what, 5th seed, I believe, from the North American SCC. But remember, it's such a different conversation in NA when we talk about seeding. Dame looking for maybe a level 2 gank. He's found it in RelentlessOne. Gonna get body blocked, but not enough damage at level 2. Needed just a few more buttons between Delnyyy and Dame to finish off the kill. But the seeding conversation, Gore, in NA, I feel like is so different from
sure.
EU, where it's like technically, yes, 5th seed. They had effectively the same record, though, as like the 2nd or the 3rd seed. All of the teams were taking games off one another. And the Kaolin Wardens, a change in identity, as we've talked about plenty of times. Losing Sino, gaining Schlemy. However, the composition still feels like a Sino-esque composition, right? You stick with the NotGeno, and you're hopefully providing a lot of setup for your Vulcan mid.
I will say, though, the downside is, and this is no slight against Schlemy by any means, but nothing hits the same way that a Sino NotGeno hits, and so
that's
that
getting banned.
Is going to be something that maybe the Wardens are going to be missing, because like you said, this is a comp that otherwise they're probably running the same way that they would have been running otherwise. It's just that Sino mechanically on NotGeno is a different person than most people in the game.
Yep.
And so it makes it a pretty huge deal. I also had to give a shout-out to Aim. I think this entire weekend has really stepped up.
Yep.
And on the Ratatoskr, I really like this for an early pick, because you can get a lot more hands-on, especially in like little moments, little skirmishes like this one.
One of Dame's best games this weekend was on Ratatoskr. Would love to start it off with a kill here, and he will. And it's 2 kills in the last 5 seconds for the Xibalba Storm. And then it'll be 3, a double kill for Dame, and a perfect start for the Xibalba Storm on the right side of the map. Left as well, as InMyZen was the one who truly found first blood.
Makes it real easy to go into the next point, because right there, what you get to see in right lane is pretty much just early game Rat. Like, when you have Dart available, you're going to be able to chase people down. You've got a nice AoE set of abilities, good stuns. I mean, you just feel good as a god early on. And like you said, one of Dame's best games so far this weekend has been on this. And with a double kill, unless something bad really happens here, a nice stun for him, gets him out. Means that you're on track to make another one of those happen. Honestly, Delnyy's bullying the hell out of RelentlessOne. And so this right lane gets off to a great start. The only other player, at least player god combo that I could compliment to that same level as Dame, has to be Zen on this ROM. So getting first blood for that is a big deal for him. I think this ROM pick for Zen, and for a few others, I think oGryph has played it well, but Zen has absolutely knocked it out of the park playing this Rama over and over again. And so knowing that you're going to be actually still technically a little behind despite the first blood, but setting yourselves up for maybe a good conversation on the Storm, that's a good thing to have on both sides of the map.
Well, the Kaolin Wardens score, they have played through Gryph a lot. The identity of this team has changed. And you still have these moswal carry-esque performances. We saw plenty of that in this team getting here to this stage. But it's a gank in mid from Dame. The gas pedal's been pressed. moswal finds the first kill in the mid lane fight. But Dame now on a killing spree as he will answer back. So moswal steps forward, realizing the only opening thread is to try to kill off Joshy. And Schlemy drops in trade. Not bad, though, getting an early kill on the Vulcan.
Yeah, it's a very interesting balance as well. I think moswal can be happy, and if we're looking at Kaolin Wardens, where a lot of their success has been, most of the time it's if moswal's having a good game, so a 1-0 start, it feels good for the Vulcan. Get a little bit of an experience lead. You do force Joshy to fall back. He gets the tier 3 anyway, but going to be stacking a little slower compared to like the Divine Ruin instant gratification. It's that weird balance, though. Just now hitting 5 for Schlemy, just now gets the ult. Use the Aegis, 2 deaths down already, both of those going on to Dame. If you're looking at just jungle matchup, probably not the best place to be, but the fact that you were able to get a kill on your opposing mid laner and put it onto moswal as well is at least a small silver lining there for the Wardens.
Yeah, absolutely, but I think if you're the Storm, you're really happy now with the pace that Dame has been able to set. And this Ratatoskr pick continues to be dynamic for the Xibalba Storm in Dame and in the way that he likes to play the game. It is through the Cosmos, effectively on cooldown.
Yeah.
In mid lane, not a bad place to put some of that aggression. moswal still with the beads, but for the time being, got to keep your eyes up. Fully upgraded Acorn, Mannequin Scepter start on the Ratatoskr, I think.
Yep. That's a good start.
Is strong, because we normally see mannequins on like the Erlungshens, the Osirises.
Yeah.
Trying to think. And maybe really the heavy auto attack early style of junglers. Yeah. And I guess you can play Ratatoskr a bit more that way. We see heavy ability style builds with Rat usually. You want to one-shot the dunk, the stun, the spin. Maybe sensing some of these earlier trades are going to be auto attack focused. I actually don't mind it. I think it's a really nice start here for Dame.
Yeah, I think it showcases, in my mind, it's more of a mentality of how Dame specifically is going to approach this game, and a lot of it right here is aggression, which is also happening up against the Maui. That's a lot of investment.
Oceans gets a big pull, but unfortunately, it's a bit of flash in the pan as the Kaolin Wardens jump on top of the Maui, and that's really good, I think, microscope on when we say Maui's great at initiating, but can't self-peel.
Yep.
All that effectively.
Or do too much damage on his own.
Too much damage on his own. That's exactly what we're talking about. A double island looks great. Now, I'm not sure many supports are escaping a 3-man dive in like the Kaolin Warden sent forward there. And it's another one for moswal. Now, we've seen moswal get off to great starts.
Uh-oh.
Snipe used from Zen. This won't actually get any kills, but nice damage on the Gryph, all 3 of them hitting.
Looks real good,
Looks
though,
really
right?
good. 3 rapid-fire shots, all of them connecting. Not too shabby. Now watch out, Dame awaiting in the wings, dunks onto Schlemy, but the Aegis from the Naja wonderfully timed, and the damage simply not connecting. Now Delnyyy hyper slow here. Shred down some protection. This is where Schlemy's got to be careful. Oh, it's a
my
double!
God!
What a turnaround! I can't believe it. He had 20 HP. And one ability makes the difference. The Naja stands strong, and suddenly this game is even. And a big shutdown onto the Ratatoskr.
Already even more so. I was confused about the decision to go for Schlemy anyway. Position-wise, RelentlessOne's still on the blue buff. Schlemy's like 5 feet from the tier 2 tower line. So the decision to go for that with the Aegis up as well was already kind of throwing a question mark into my brain for him. But then, look, that's the reason it's so difficult to fight a Naja, and part of the reason it's not done super early on outside of the minion wave, and that's because if you get 2 people right next to each other, that ring toss is going to do exactly what it did, right? A ton of damage that Schlemy's able to provide there. And it's just off of the fact that you turned around and threw out your one. That's a, hey, I'm going to die, let's see if I can get something to help set up RelentlessOne. The fact that you live and y'all get those kills, it's just, that's amazing for the Wardens right there. And in a game that was starting off so well for Dame specifically, a double kill to kick off that lane, that has to be I mean, almost cathartic. Like, that feels so good, and mentally it keeps you in this. Because like you said, elimination game, granted you've got the full set, but knowing that you're able to keep it equal and turn around a small deficit early on has got to feel great.
Now imagine for Dame, continuing to play like this is going to be important. You can't let a shutdown sway you from continuing to fight. moswal uses the beads early in this engagement. What can the snipes find from Zen? 1 bit of poke damage, 2 bits of poke damage. But Geno will not have to use that Scarab's Blessing. Now Dame continuing the chase though. Schlemy does not have Wind Fire Wheels, does have Sash, however. And Dame handedly winning this 1v1, but Joshy will rotate through and finish off the kill. You're talking about catharsis score. I think Dame now answering back the shutdown just a few moments ago. Yeah. Especially with the kill onto Schlemy. You know, Naja giveth and taketh away. Starts off all right. Answers back with a double kill, but now the 3rd death of the game. It's been tumultuous for Schlemy out of the jungle, just caught a bit out of sorts over in the mid lane.
And the problem I think that's really going to find them is right here is about the moment's in. If he hadn't used that ult earlier, probably could go for a kill on Gryph here. It's that small little shift, I think, that right now, especially mid-game, I mean, you know, the level 10s through 15s, maybe 8s through 15s in that area, it's a good spot for a Naja Vulcan to kind of combo. Vulcan's going to be able to do a lot of good damage later on. Naja, we've seen in late games, can really kind of step things up. But we've also seen the opposite of that, where you know, Schlemy, like, if they're not getting aggressive now and controlling this game, is just getting melted for every single time they go in for an ult. I think the Aegis is a necessary relic early on. And as the game goes on, I really like Merlin damage. You get good setup from a Maui, you get good setup from a Ram. Like, I think the Xibalba Storm might scale a little better, save for moswal into the lake.
Gold Fury gotta be confirmed by moswal, and it sure is. The Earth Shaker does the last bit of damage, and so I like it from the Kaolin Wardens. You realize you got some shred, and you've got the best objective secure on the map, and that objective secure is off to a 2-0 start. Love the pull, love the objective from the Wardens. An answer back, though, by the Xibalba Storm will cauterize the wounds a bit. The Pyromancer is the answer. Not often you see this score. Experience lead for one team, gold lead for the other. Usually indicates good farming in one lane in particular. RelentlessOne gets swung on here. Geno drops the root, and this is just a slow burn on a RelentlessOne,
nice,
and a 3-man pull from Oceans. The Scarab's Blessing, it's going to wear out. That's easy for Dame, but the backfire from moswal keeps things interesting. Low health bars on Oceans and Dame. And Delnyyy now going to force back the Kaolin Wardens. No further chase, unless Delnyyy wants to go in. Does not have cavalry charge, but in comes Zen from the dual lane. The range needs to wait out the Aegis. Dellnyy's got the dash. The Storm breaking things open in mid.
And look, I just love, again, the way they're playing this. Delnyy's not even slowing down. He's going to get a double.
Goodness.
And just go onto the tower, does not care about moswal's damage. And that's the thing, I think, that this Guan you know, we saw it for a while, kind of faded from the meta, but when you really do factor in the healing and the tankiness that Guan Yu is going to have, that already feels great. You factor in the engage, the disengage, that feels fantastic. But what Delnyyy gets to showcase there, and something I think that's going to come up a lot, between him, between the Rat, between Oceans, and admittedly, even though it's not necessarily done the same way across all of these gods, I have to throw Merlin in there, but there's a lot of shred potential on this team and setup potential, right? If Oceans ever hits another ult like that one, then the Warden's got to rethink things. That was beautiful. 3-man island, pulls them all in, looks great. But then you have Delnyyy, who can shred prots, Merlin, who's going to eat through your health bars, and Dame, who's got brilliant setup and so much that comes together there that just no one's going to feel tanky enough on the Wardens in a lot of these circumstances. And with the amount of damage and now the lead that's coming up, I mean, you're looking at 3 levels in the jungle there, and technically let's call it 2.5 for Dame. It's been a great Ratatoskr game. And there's still plenty of
my goodness, Oceans does it again, and that is one dead Gryph. Could be good snipes from Zen as well. Scarab's Blessing still awaits from Geno, might be needed for Schlemy, but Geno uses it on himself. Now Dame does have through the Cosmos. I think if that health bar was full, you're seeing a Ratatoskr diving those red health bars. But a bit too low. That's a nice Aegis. Slows down some of the meatball damage from moswal, who could turn around a kill here on a Joshy. Sure does. It's a killing spree for the Vulcan, and Ocean's low. RelentlessOne needs the rend, won't get it. Nothing working out for the Kaolin Wardens. The killing spree for Zen, and now we do see Gore through the Cosmos, and it's headed for moswal.
Look, and a knock up, a stun here, anything that closes this gap could be massive. The damage from moswal is only going to connect on Delnyyy. Dame's healed just enough.
What a pace.
That they could probably have gone for more if they had wanted it. Look, moswal, and this is, look at the KDAs when they come back up, because it is very simple. moswal is the shining grace right now.
And that's been happening a lot for this Wardens team.
Yeah, and it's enough to keep them in. Look, I think that a Vulcan in the right spot can keep this game alive. It enables so much for him. I mean, you know, we're talking about Secure versus Burn, but Secure goes in favor of the Warden, so objectives you have to imagine. If moswal's feeling good at a 3-0 pace, is going to be in favor of them, but sometimes, especially on gods like this, there's only so much you can do on your own. You do need the setup and the step up from people around you, and I think Schlemy showcased that is possible earlier. But I think that moswal needs a little more of a supporting cast, right? He can't be the one-man show, despite the fact that we know it can at least give some sort of balance to him. Getting a kill onto Joshy, or at least a second kill now for him, still feels really solid. That eliminates that fight from going to just being a fight to Fury or at least Pyro, something like that in the talk. Since both of them were down, maybe makes it a little easier for the Wardens to be willing to make some of those sacrifices, although they ideally don't want to be giving up the kills, especially duo lane. I mean, at this point, we're looking at a full chin size over a level up for Zen, despite the fact that even after the first blood, he was actually second to hit level 5 between them and Griff, so I think shows the change of pace, like you said, kind of kicking things up into to 7th gear. They're going even further and making sure that the Wardens just can't catch up.
They're firing on all cylinders, Score. Not one of the cylinders.
Not a single cylinder is missing here.
That's right. I don't know who would sponsor this MVP, but like the Farmer MVP trophy of the weekend, I still think goes to moswal regardless of the outcome of this set in the Kaolin Wardens weekend. You
don't know who would sponsor the Farmer? We are farmers. Bum 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 bum. Right there.
The Farmer's Insurance Farming MVP. Farmer of the weekend. It's got to be moswal. Experience has just outclassed their opponents in most of the games we've seen. This is a big team fight here. Could bring the game back to even or effectively end things. Schlemy dunked on, but he's got the Scarab's Blessing. Earthshaker's already been used. The ultimate economy, terrible for the Kaolin Wardens, and they've lost their jungler. Basically, everyone's used their ult. Still a wild hunt. You're going to need that one to be Category 9. Crazy if the Kaolin Wardens are going to have a fight back in here. So you're fighting at a gold deficit. That's the only ultimate ready to go. Now, Oceans provides some good setup. The hook in. Connects onto RelentlessOne. That's a nice burn and burst from Joshy out of mid. Now, how about the chase down? Dame takes the wild hunt. He'll use the beads. He'll dash away. A dunk in from Oceans. And the last bit of burst provided by Joshy. And that is not anything particularly flashy.
Nope.
It is burn and chase down onto the Nike. And now an eyes turn onto the Primal Fury.
And this can still be awkward. I'm actually surprised. I feel like the damage, again, secure-wise for the Storm, even without the ult from moswal, they could try to go for something. But I think they realized that, well, Schlemy, it happened to Schlemy, it happened to RelentlessOne. If anyone steps up to try and steal this, the Storm are just going to turn, burn, kill, and then go back to the Fury anyway. So I like the fact that they decided to just kind of let that one go. You're not going to be able to win that battle particularly. This one might be a different story. moswal has ult and has vision.
Pyromancer down to half. moswal on a flank. Misses a bit of damage. Now it's Beads and Aegis. That's out of the Vulcan, and Earthshaker could clip Joshy. It does, but Aegis well timed by the Merlin. Ocean's on one pullback. That keeps Geno out of this fight. Dame is chased down moswal. That's priority 1. And now the Xibalba Storm. They got to feel good about the rest of this fight. Joshy flickers away. And the Scarab's Blessing enough, or is it? Dame has found the back once again. The New Ark's finest has got a double.
Look, I mean, this masterclass. I don't even, like, I'm speechless for Dame.
Yeah,
They're
Dame's
playing it so well. But not only that, and Delnyyy deserves a special shout out because Joshy dies there if it's not for a really well-timed heal. I mean, and right before a final bounce of a ring toss goes towards Joshy, that heal comes through. Would have killed him, would have been at least a small turnaround for the Wardens. Stopped by Delnyyy, so really well played. But when you look at it, 6-1 and 3 for Dame, really good knockups, really good engage, really good control. You're getting Zen at a 4-0 and 3, really good rotations. And I'm certain we'll see it. First off, 4K healing done, and that's not including the self-healing that Delnyyy has been able to put up. But watching the Merlin, actually surprised to see Joshy not so high up on the list so far, just because it feels like the burn that Merlin has gotten, that 9,400 damage, has all been very effective damage. It is all converted into something.
Yep.
And unfortunately for Schlemy, 6 of those somethings are his death, right? It is just too much. You're getting aggressive. The ring toss felt good there. And luckily the Scarab's Blessing saved at least the first time around. But you're running down this Merlin who's just bouncing back and so trusting on his team to keep him alive that Schlemy's eating a mountain of damage in the process and still unable to get the kill. It's just an unfortunate scenario for the Wardens, but beautifully, beautifully played by the Storm.
Now, Schlemy has had plenty of very good games here this weekend. Gotten the Kaolin Wardens to a very strong spot. This is not one of them, however. 2-6. Really nice double kill early in the game, but remember, that was thinnest of margins. I don't want to take the double kill away, but you're talking about a bit more damage one way or another for the Xibalba Storm in that fight. Still likely losing their lives. The ring toss was fantastic, but unfortunately, the jungle is just completely opposite as far as KDA goes. The Xibalba Storm confident enough at the 1945 mark to pull out the fire. They've got burn with Joshy, but an Earthshaker from moswal can turn this game around. Cavalry charge forward, but Delnyyy has been left alone, or has he? Dame is here once again, and it's the dash forward and the dash out from Delnyyy that keeps the Guan Yu alive once more. Schlemy needs the bailout, and Geno happy to provide it. Just the one kill, and it's on to moswal, who was unable to use that Earthshaker, and just now, the Beads and Aegis coming back off of cooldown. Unfortunate timing for moswal.
And the exact same thing happens for Schlemy there, except this time Dame doesn't get the kill afterward. Rez is necessary. Schlemy one hit away from Joshy. Delnyyy gets in the fight and gets the heal. And it's just enough of a heal, but it's enough of a heal that Joshy all of a sudden is able to back, reset, and now they've got the burn to take this Fire Giant down. And admittedly, the pace of this game, typically we have the opposite effect, where it's so slow that we think it's later than it is.
Right.
This one's done the opposite. It's been so fast that I assumed it was earlier than it was. I thought we were at 16 minutes. Nah, 20 minutes. It's an easy Fire Giant for them. And again, the pressure that they are exuding, the setup they have on the front line. I mean, part of this is coming down from the draft, but a lot of this is just really good play from the Storm. They picked 5 gods that they're playing really well. And I think that, especially with ults about to come back up, save for Delnyyy, who just use his, we could easily be talking about a Phoenix. There's still 5 towers standing that they can get. You talk about gold infusions that you're going to get from that. If you're looking right now at gold in hand already, you're talking a minimum 1,100. I'm surprised they back, because we're talking up to the maximum of like 3K, 4K if you're able to get everything. Then again, what are you getting with these backs? Tier 3s that were just Tier 2. Spectral Armor now locked in for Delnyyy, so that's just easy survivability in the face of, right now, what really is only the Shadow Steel Shuriken. You also get the Soul Reaper from, Soul Reaver.
I know, I'm so used to saying Soul Reaper this weekend.
Joshy picks that one up, so even more damage from this Merlin, which I expect to see right now, sitting at pretty much right in the middle, hovering around Dame. That number is going to go up if these fights keep going this way, but also massive power spikes for Zen in terms of items. Gets the Executioner upgrade as well, the Glyph in here, with a little bit of the Tier 2 Odie bow, so attack speed, you're going to have a little bit of Chain Lightning. Just feels like you've set yourselves up for a lot of success and a lot of burn, and there's still, I mean, what, 4,500 plus another 1,000, 5,500 gold on the map that you can pick up with this Fire Giant, not including Phoenixes. There is a lot that the Storms can do here, and there's no reason to falter. I mean, with the amount of fights and kills that have been going their way, I want to see them press in, maybe even go for a Phoenix at this point just because of how controlling they've been. That'll be a little more risky, but when you have specifically the engage that Delnyyy and Dame or that Oceans can bring, Phoenix has become a little easier in the conversation. Probably after the towers, but still something that the team can talk about pretty easily.
It's Mannequin's Hidden Blade now for Dame. So we're early in the game, those auto attacks felt great. Now that stun is going to feel a bit more bursty once this Ratatoskr steps forward. And I'm glad you shout out Delnyyy. I think Delnyyy,
he's 4 levels up.
Right, despite, despite Dame really being the flashy playmaking player this game, I think this Guan Yu has felt near untouchable. And we have seen plenty of multi-pulls on the islands from Oceans as well. Something fitting about that. I think Oceans being a very good Maui player just makes some sense. And how about one more RelentlessOne pulled back, but the Scarab's Blessing needed. Ocean's polymorphed. Drops the horrific emblem, but Schlemy doesn't have much more to say about it. But the Kaolin Wardens, you've got a full HP Griff, and Griff has been the difference maker all weekend long, and you need him now. But I'm not sure he's got enough. As Dame once again dashes forward. Uh-oh, it's a mistake as Griff has got a shutdown. A double kill for the Cernunnos. And suddenly the Fire Giant power play a bit limited for the Xibalba Storm.
This is a spot where Zen can still go pretty big. Oceans is getting just the minimal amount of healing necessary. But everybody's backing off. Zen still does a lot of damage. A good stun from the Maui could set up a lot.
Oh, it sure does. It sets up Joshy for one. And RelentlessOne.
Oh my god.
Almost the second. The Nike will live. Tier 2 tower will not. It's only moswal left. Gets the Earthshaker back. Wondering if he was considering a fadeaway ult just to poke out a little bit more damage. Does force the flicker away. Fire Giant will fall off here in about 20, so far from worst case scenario for the Kaolin Wardens. Now you do fall 10,000 gold behind. About 3,000 gold on this power play specifically. But you maintain both of your Phoenixes. And Gore, you've still got this steal potential. I think that that might be the only thread back into this game is moswal, who's consistently kept pace with a team on the other side that's been far ahead. Itemization there. Yeah. Got to be a good Earthshaker, though, I think, to really set up for the Storm. However, double kill from from Griff, rather. Remember, all weekend long, Kaolin Wardens, they've leaned on moswal. They've leaned on Griff, who's put together some really, really nice games. Close to full build now on the Cernunnos. Might be his time to step up and bring the Wardens back in.
And you know, with Delnnyyy's death as well, that one feels like it's inevitable. Like, it's got to happen at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like, eventually, with that level of play, Dame went for a big play. I admire it because, look, when you're 8-1, sometimes you're just going to try to make those big plays, and unfortunately, sometimes they're just not going to work. Considering how often they've worked this game, I think it's more than fine for that one to drop. But it is a pretty big drop. I mean, we're talking what was a 4-level lead in the jungle. That's going to shorten no matter what, but Schlemy being able to at least get a piece of some of that, suddenly you're talking now 2 levels there. It's a good amount of gold as well. That goes towards the way of Griff. And so the build between Griff and Zen, not quite as different as it could be. Still a pretty massive difference between the two, so Power Spike's still in favor of Zen.
Uh-oh. Is Geno in trouble here? Sure is. Scarab's Blessing. That'll plant him right back where he stands. But, of course, Dame can provide some extra chase. Griff, one shot! InMyZen's on a rampage. Dame rampaging. And the Xibalba Storm have gotten rid of the duo lane, and it'll be a double for the Rom. Fire Giant just now spawned, so it is not a Phoenix call just yet from the Xibalba Storm. Gore, there's just simply been no initiation from the Kaolin Wardens that's been able to keep pace. It has been too easy for Dame and the rest of the Storm. The dive has been too strong. Oceans can pull him in. Delnyyy can chase him down. And Dame can come from over the top. It has just been a masterclass in initiating from this Xibalba Storm team.
And ordinarily, I'd be complaining, saying, okay, well, you just got so much room. Why did you not rush down to Phoenix? They've still got 20 seconds before a majority of this team is respawned. That's Schlemy and Griff. Not only that, but they had pretty low health bars going into the FG. Now, because of Delnyyy, they're talking full health bars. They can get both Phoenixes here, mid and left, if they want.
Yep.
Unfortunately, because of the timers, it's going to be risky to try and stay in the Titan room itself. I'm surprised they don't just walk into the Phoenix itself. I think with Zen, at this point, especially with this kind of build, could very easily have set this up for a more victorious kind of setup for them. But you're pretty much right in the same way that you were a second ago, which was that the one way back into this felt like it would be moswal steal. Now we're talking big damage numbers on a defense. I mean, we're talking moswal and Griff having maybe some of the best defense of their lives here. RelentlessOne, Geno have done a pretty good job of setup, but just haven't been able to really find a team fight yet. And unfortunately for Schlemy, you've got the max death column. That's just going to be the dichotomy of it. I mean, very similar to when we talk about like a mirror that gets behind. Naja, like your sash is pulling you in. Your ult, you're going to be in there. Like no matter what you do, you are going to be surrounded by the Storm. And falling behind as early as they did, even with a beautiful double kill early on, unfortunately has now led them to this spot where I don't even know if I like grouping up as 5 outside of your base. If you can find an individual pick, could be pretty big. But I think for the most part, after like the fact that there's a couple people who are at the middle of the wave, that in and of itself is already risky. They're lucky a few showed up on left, so they know they're safe for now. But I think you got to start channeling your backs as soon as possible. If I'm Dame, I just want to stop those as much as I can.
I mean, if I'm Joshy and Zen here, I'm just reaction time on the Aegis, gotta be there now. Dame, my goodness. That is just crazy. Goes in 2v1, deletes Schlemy. Geno won't even use the Scarab's Blessing, and now he's out of the fight. There is no Scarab's Blessing in the base, and it's a 2v1 double for Dame. InMyZen will end the game unstoppable. And Griff, you've played great all weekend long. There's just no chance. And the Xibalba Storm decimate the Kaolin Wardens in just under 30 minutes.
Look, it says something. And again, I have to give the shout out to him because one of the most impressive moments of this game came from Schlemy. But unfortunately, it was the maybe one moment that got to shine there for the Wardens. Otherwise, you have just impeccable play from and not even like everybody played well. That was a quiet game from Zen. He ends it like 5-0 and something, right? I mean, like it's one that didn't have crazy flashy moments from the ROM, but did exactly what you need to do. Joshy as well, maybe not the flashiest game in the world, but was able to do exactly what you need to do. A lot of damage from the Merlin. It's just Ocean's playing the Maui incredibly well. Dame on the Ratatoskr, absolutely nuts, and I think Delnyyy playing out of his mind. And starting things off with a double kill over there and first blood in left. I mean, that was already kind of setting the tone for what kind of game that the Storm was going to be bringing.
If this is how the Storm are going to play on qualification/elimination Sunday, it's a scary team to face for sure. Game 1 convincingly to the Xibalba Storm. Got to retool some things. You're the Kaolin Wardens. Let's see what they can get done in Game 2 up next.
game number 1 of our first set of the day goes over to the Xibalba Storm, who have put themselves 1 game closer to their qualification to the SWC group stage, and that would be 1 step closer to qualification towards SWC. And after all the Smite's going to be going on through there, we're going to have so many great events that are going to be happening, so many panels, the Golden Bolts Awards are going to be going on, but also the cosplay contest is happening. This goes on every single year at the Smite World Championship. We have a $9,000 prize pool, so make sure that you do sign up over at SmiteGame.com/SWC in order to get your information on how to sign up for this. It's always an exciting event to go out and be able to watch the cosplay contest, see what the community has to offer, and I'm really excited to see what we get to see this year with all the new stuff that's come through. Charlie, are you excited for the cosplay contest?
I'm really glad you asked, because I've been meaning to ask you, if you dressed up as Kuzubo, could I be your nene?
That's what you wanted me to throw to you for?
Yeah, I could be I could just go, hey, you know, and you could be the Kuzubo.
You know what? I'd let you be my nene.
Thanks, man.
Sign up for the cosplay contest, SmiteGame.com/SWC, so maybe you can be someone's nene like Charlie wants to be my nene.
Yeah.
For that one.
Would love that.
I'm going to be honest. I had no idea what to expect going into that throw to you. You know what? Not disappointed one bit. Just like how fans of the Xibalba Storm don't have to be disappointed for game number 1, a stellar performance from the SCC squad, the lower seed of all of these. The number 5 coming into this contest has been a bit of a struggle for this team once they kind of got their new roster through here. But Dame this game really popped off in this Ratatoskr, created a lot of space for InMyZen, who we were talking about at the very beginning of the game, was also created so much space to get through these team fights, Charlie.
Yeah, and this is kind of what I was expecting. The Rat loves to get active early, and this is where Rat really flourishes, right? If you can get an early lead, a 1 or even 2 kills in this case, it's going to be very difficult to try and match that pressure. We saw a few times where Schlemy was able to get some nice ultimates, but did not have that same effect as the Ratatoskr did, and that also sets up for Delnyyy. The solo lane is essentially just really hard to deal with after a start like that, and then the rest of the lead was able to go throughout the rest of the team. And it's not easy, you know, coming back from a situation like that, because the Rat never fell off. You know, the hidden blade just makes your dive better. You have so much burst damage, and pretty much getting all the last hits means you're so far ahead of everyone else. Dame just essentially got to run through this game.
Yeah, it really felt like NotGeno in multiple fights had a lot of great opportunities to get that revive off. Dame or Zen was almost always in the sky ready to go. When as soon as that revive would go through, as soon as they're back to life and in the world of the living, they put him right back down in the grave once more. A 12-2-5 performance out of Dame, a 7-0-7 for NMyZen. So an undying game for the carry of the Xibalba Storm. And it's hard to win games when you can't get to the backline and take care of these carries. Zen on this ROM has been honestly quite a show to watch so far, Charlie. It seems that every time that he's been able to get this pick, he has really been able to run the show.
Yeah, and it's always different builds too. Like for different situations, you know, you can pivot into shred or full crit or a little bit of both. And it's difficult to play up against that because you can't just build a Spectral and be fine because you're still getting shredded by the kin size and things like that. Big fan of how Zen has been able to play this pick, and I'm not saying it deserves a first ban, but maybe some prioritization towards that pick. If you can't get Ishtar, I wouldn't be surprised if the Wardens tried to grab Griff that pick because Zen's been looking real clean on it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to stop somebody when you keep giving them a pick that they're just dominating on throughout all their matchups there. So I think you might be right to talk about maybe taking that pick for Griff instead if the Ishtar doesn't make its way through. Because Griff has also been looking pretty good on the guy whenever he's gotten his hands onto it. So we'll have to see maybe if the ROM makes it to over to the second pick, or will it get grabbed right away. Let's jump into the picks and bans for game number 2 between Kaolin Wardens and the Xibalba Storm. Storm now 1 game away from eliminating the Kaolin Wardens and moving on to their final matchup of play, again awaiting the loser of the Sages and the Eldritch Hounds that'll be played in the next set. And it's still one final opportunity for them to make it to the SWC group stage. Kaolin Wardens, though, they want to make it there. They've got to get a reverse sweep here against the Storm and then still have their win in their matchup later on. But as the bands start to roll up, Umoja and Athena, first 2 off the table. No surprise considering that Umoja is a top pick. Maybe a surprise to see that Umoja is being banned away by first pick, though, Trelly.
Yeah, maybe just not trying to grab it. The Wardens are focused on something else. Will not be surprised if the Ratatoskr was also thrown up into these bans, but it looks like the Guan from the Wardens is a little bit more pressing. They don't want to deal with Delnyyy on that pick, and it's going to be the Ishtar once again. So, ooh, the Danzaburou is going to be the call. I was going to say, like last time we saw, but this time around, the Danzaburou is going to be the first pick. That does bring a tremendous amount of early game damage, and if you can play into the beats, should be able to be off to a great start, which I think something the Wardens were lacking in game number 1. But if you hear that laugh, you know the Storm are going to lock in that Rama for themselves. And last time around it was the Maui, I believe, but it looks like they're more so looking towards the Vulcan.
Yeah, maybe not going to go immediately for this Maui for Oceans, which I will say every game that Oceans has picked up this Maui, it's looked better and better. Almost like it's almost kind of like Baby's first tournament for Maui. It's like, all right, cool. Well, he didn't do so hot, but we're getting a little bit better as it goes through. So I've been pretty impressed by how Oceans has been able to step up on the Maui so far. Won't see it just yet. It's the Rama and the Vulcan for the Xibalba Storm. And then Horus, Danzaburou, and a hover of Danzaburou, which we haven't seen very much of outside of like Barracuda at the Pro League level, but he gets locked in with the Horus. I mean, kind of talk to me about really kind of no matter what this Ram gets paired with in a lane, talk to me about maybe like the kill pressure. I mean, how hard is it to fight into a Horus Danza duo lane?
It is a lot of pressure, and I think that's the call, trying to put pressure towards duo, trying to force out beads, and the 1v1 potential is always there. If you can use the rocket to force out a Rama ult, you kind of just go into your little leaf, juke around, and then wait till he comes down and try and get those trades, or in this case, confirm that kill. So I always like the Danza if you're going to be playing aggressive, and it seems to me like that's what Gryph wants. Gryph does not want to sit in lane and farm anymore. Elimination on the line, you're down 0-1, you got to bring the pressure, and that's what Danza does.
Well, will be Maui one more time for Oceans. I think that's like his probably 5th game in a row now that he's been able to pick up this pick. So Ratatoskr not banned away from Dame after a 12-2 game. You would have thought that maybe that was the call. Instead, the Wardens focused on solo lane bans. They banned a Jormungandr and an Artio. Other side, a couple of shots towards moswal, taking some of his mages off the table. Merlin and Zeus banned away. So with the Ratatoskr picked up by the Storm, the answer for the Wardens is to go with Tyr over in the solo lane. And then this Nuwa. I'm going to be honest, Charlie, I haven't been overly impressed by the Nuwa. It hasn't disappointed me, but I haven't really seen that oomph that I was thinking of for a mid lane mage. How do you kind of like it in the matchup that the Storm have so far?
Well, I'm looking at what's going to be diving the new one. So far, there's no solo laner, so I can just talk about the Rat. And there's a decent matchup there. When you know Rat's coming, you can either ult, or you can kind of just pre-beach, drop your clay soldiers, go for a big explosion, then ult. You have lots of time to stall. And if that's the case, then I think moswal will be able to just, defend himself just fine. However, with King Arthur in the mix, you're saving your clay explosion for either the damage on the Rat or the damage on King Arthur. You can't hit them both, and that becomes a little bit more difficult. Keeping Nuwa alive is never easy, but when you have this much die from the Tyr, from the Horus, and the Danzaburou, as long as moswal positions well, he should be fine.
Might be a tough game for moswal in mid, but I've put some trust into moswal. He's been able to pilot Zeus's to high degrees. Nuwa at least has a slight get out of jail free for a moment with that ultimate, so maybe a little bit easier to position, a little bit of self-peel, at least within their kit as you highlight there. And then a King Arthur rounds out the composition for the Xibalba Storm going over to the solo. We haven't seen very much King Arthur this tournament. We'll see if it can work out here for the Xibalba Storm. 1 game away from moving on. The Kaolin Wardens need to find the win here in game number 2, so let's throw it down there with Dulcet and Gore.
That's right. If the Kaolin Wardens do not want to go home, need to win this game, need to win game 3 as well. moswal will go back to the Nuwa. Should provide some self-peel Gore, which is going to be important because the Kaolin Wardens gave Dame the Ratatoskr all over again, which I guess tells me that the Wardens feel like they've got an answer, or they're not expecting Dame to be able to do the same thing
twice,
which, I mean, how often you go 12-2 on a Ratatoskr in a somewhat close matchup? Who knows? But the thing, he's going to be able to do the same thing as far as initiation goes, right? Notions hasn't had the best Maui games early on this weekend, looked fantastic in game number 1.
Yeah.
He's going to be able to do the same thing. You still got a King Arthur that's going to be walking forward. I wonder if the Wardens feel like they've just reorganized the way they want to play against this style of competition.
And honestly, I think that you kind of have to, right? Because like you said, you can play very aggressively. But the good news, and honestly, I think that the big difference maker, first off, Dame, starts off last game with a double kill. Dodgy, real good in a 2v2 skirmish, but you also have a tier. A Fearless, if Dame goes in here, goes massive for them. And so I think that becomes a different conversation. I also think, and you know, we got 2 different styles of it yesterday, although we might have to hold that, Delnyyy. At least getting poked out, but it is Schlemy who I wanted to talk about.
Trouble. He's in trouble. Schlemy won't go underneath the tier 1 tower, however. One last burst of damage, I think gets it done on a Delnyyy there, but stays alive. When you look at Delnyy's itemization priority, goes Chalice, health potions, only the Bluestone starter, all the rest of that extra gold goes into pots. Realizing maybe this laning phase is going to be a bit tumultuous. Dame and Schlemy battling it out in the jungle just a bit. I remember Mannequin Scepter for Dame felt great for some of the early auto attack trades later in the game, was one-shotting the carries, and he'll blink forward again. And we'll fight out with Schlemy, and Mannequin Scepter strikes again. Dame, it is simple. Walks forwards, stuns, autos, and gets the first kill.
Just gets it done, right? I mean, and a beautiful play by him, because if you stay in that engagement a second prior, before the blink, Schlemy's just going to stick to you. It's going to cause a lot of trouble. Instead, Schlemy's playing way too aggressively, sticks around for the back camps, and then a small skirmish, but a good engage. And like you said, it's because of the Mannequin Scepter that is allowing Dame to feel as aggressive early on. Schlemy is who I was going to highlight, and it's just because yesterday me and you were casting. And Schlemy goes absolutely insane on this Dodgy.
Yep.
And then yesterday me and Trelly are casting. And that one was forgettable, to the point where I had to remind myself that he did, in fact, play the Dodgy again. Granted, one's against the Hound, so it's a lot harder to look as good.
So it's Trelly's fault. That's the only difference.
Yeah, that's the main difference. So obviously, now that you're here again, Schlemy is going to go absolutely insane.
Right.
No, I think that Dame plays that well, uses the blink in a good moment, because how many other times before level 5 are you going to be using it? I think that that's a good time to get aggressive and kind of get just into the fight, get a first blood for yourself. And yeah, it's not a double kill and 3 kills across the board at the same time, but it's still a pretty big win in my eyes for the Storm.
Wonder. You know, again, it's immediately at level 5. As we always say, you know, you get these big level 5 power spikes. That's when the junglers can find their initiations, things like that. And of course, with the Pal-Out, with the Through the Cosmos, that's the case. But Dame wastes no time in game number 1 at level 5. And so some options gore for Dame here in just a moment or so. Now, moswal has beads, but also remember with the ultimate, able to get up into the sky, so a little bit of self-disengage might make it harder for Dame, but also somewhat immobile after that. Depending on how long Dame and moswal can kind of wait each other out with those ultimates, could be a good option. Now, I got to talk about duo lane core, because it is a total readjustment for the Kaolin Wardens there.
Yeah.
That is one of the big changes from game 1 to game 2. Aggressive for Geno with the Horus instead of the Khepri in this game. And then Griff goes Danza. Danza has been very specific with some SPL teams and could be good. My goodness, is Joshy going to hit Schlemy? No, he won't.
I love that, though.
But Dame holding on to that ultimate, he won't dive in either. This is maybe what you're hoping for in duo. If you're Griff, winning the trade against Oceans, but InMyZen has more. Here comes Dame over to duo. Beads right on time, but the snipes from Zen, fantastic. It's level 5. Dame's got ult, fully upgraded the Acorn, and now it's helping out the duo lane.
And again, I just love the fact that the Dame's all over the place. Once you get that ult, you know, I was talking about not needing the blink until you have it. You don't need it when you have it as well. You get such a good semi-global presence. Yeah, the kill's only on Geno, but honestly, setting a Horus behind is a pretty big deal for your team, as well as Oceans being able to set things up. The only thing I wanted to piggyback on what you had said, outside of just how clean that kill is that this Danza has been seen in a lot of SPL teams. You know, for a while it was literally just PandaCat who was playing it. And Phase 3 playoffs, Barra continually going back to this pick over and over again. And so what Griff is able to do on this pick, I think is going to be a big deal. Some teams, like you said, highly valuing it. Also have to give it the shout out, because for anyone who's played DKO, he hangs out in there when he's dropping coins on the map.
That's true. You're trying to chase him down. That's a fun game, bud. Scrapping out over the chest to deposit your coins, those sorts of things. Now Schlemy, he's going to make his presence known on left as well. And that I was about to say that this is something we did not see in game 1. was the pace matching from the opposite side of the jungle. Now that's somewhat simple. InMyZen just a bit too far forward, and the extra damage from the Dashi is enough. And so, it's exactly what the Kaolin Wardens needed, especially on InMyZen. Remember, you were talking about it. It was sort of a slower paced game from Zen, but eventually the Ram gets there, the itemization catches up, ends the game on a 7-kill streak. If you're able to get your Danza off to a strong start, the ability to play more aggressive, send the rocket in aggressively, it's a good look for the Kaolin Wardens duo.
And I think that's something they've got to be very heavily aware of, like, and continually. I think that Schlemy is on a better pick this time around to do exactly what you said, right? We're seeing finally some match from the opposition, and it's because last game, Dame would be in right, Dame would be in mid, Dame would be in left, and then we'd watch Schlemy slash someone and die. And it wasn't necessarily Schlemy's fault, it was just that's the way that it continued to unfold for them. So I think that on the Daji, immediately in a better position to try and get aggressive, immediately in a better position to win some of these fights, and honestly be the one that kind of leads the way for your team. moswal, maybe on less of a follow-up god, NWK, something that it's not the first time that we've seen moswal play, this tournament even, but definitely probably not where the mindset was at. I mean, you know, you ban out the Merlin, the Vulcan got taken away. Other than that, we've been seeing Zeus, which I believe was banned out as well, and then Apwash is the other god that typically is associated with moswal. And so going for the NWK, again, it has some burst. We saw it yesterday, I believe it was. Maybe it was 2 days ago. But the ult's nice. I think I value it more as a ward sometimes than as damage, but it can finish people away. I also think that realistically, I don't know, you're just in a weird spot. It feels like the NWK just can't do as much to get hands-on. So maybe it's just going to be entirely for facilitating Schlemy.
Yeah. I mean, look, you know moswal going to farm up effectively. He'll always be in a state of strength. Have not seen moswal fall very far behind, if ever. Now oGryph dodges out the island pull from Oceans. As Schlemy is here once again. Dame, though, with the counter gank. Fire shards from moswal. Those look good. As InMyZen is dropped, however, can through the Cosmos hit the necessary target. I'm not sure Dame wants to tower dive. Should just be an ult away. Another great dual lane gank from the Kaolin Wardens. That evens the score here. And so Schlemy now really the one setting the pace, and that's where you can see a bit of the benefit of moswal, even though it's early in the game. Still able to provide kind of an extra half-man worth of damage over on left, even when you're over in mid.
And it makes me think that what you were saying and what you noted on is really accurate, but mostly that the Wardens in Game 1 were playing a Warden-style draft, a Wardens from the Year style draft. This game, they're letting Schlemy shine, and that so far has been working out well for him. Again, it's only a 1-2, nothing too crazy, but 2-2. And being able to maybe put yourselves on the board and keep into the conversation, it's a huge deal when you're on an elimination game, right? If the Wardens are in a position that they could potentially get knocked out.
That's right.
You've got to be able to step up. I think that Geno is going to be an important factor later on, but going down for first blood, maybe not the best look for the Horus so far, but Schlemy has to be, I'm sorry, not for the first blood. Schlemy was the first blood. Geno was just the first kill on the dual lane. But Schlemy has to be the one. I think when we look up, when that Palau's off cooldown, I need to see it pulling beads. At this point, I want to just see it over there up against Zen. A really good chase down can force Zen into the ult early, and then a Palau pulls him back. You get a free kill. And that could, I mean, starting it out 1 and 3 as a ROM does not feel great. And I think that would be a perfect tune for the Wardens to be singing.
I agree. You're happy with some of the adjustments that have been made and some of the adjustments that have stuck now in game number 2. Still got to take a deep breath. What you don't want to do is overextend. Schlemy's had a fantastic turnaround game. You know, a game 1 like that for Schlemy, you know, it's not indicative of the quality of player he is. That's an important ult up from InMyZen because Schlemy on duo again. Zen will drop and a pull away by Oceans. We don't get to see many of those, but a pull back in from Schlemy. And a good ultimate from moswal helps finish off the kill. Now Joshy rotates over from mid. This is a big moment. oGryph can't survive. Dame makes sure of it. Ends up being a 2-for-1 on what looked like a fantastic start for the Kaolin Wardens.
I'm surprised by this, Geno. Okay, yeah, it's just going to go behind Oceans with the Fearless here. This could actually be a big turnaround. Joshy is in trouble.
RelentlessOne is in from solo. Joshy drops the meatball, and RelentlessOne drops him in trade. And that'll even up the score over on the left side. Man, these poor AD carries, they have just not been able to take a breather this game. Schlemy has been starting it all off, but Dame has been right on time with the counter ganks. Finally, we get some of the mid laners physically involved, not just ults, out of mid. A little fadeaway red buff steal from the Kaolin Wardens. You know, I think the mindset of Schlemy pretty clear here, Gore. If we can keep Zen at bay for long enough, we trust Griff to run over the 80 carry competition, that's the word I'm looking for. Hasn't quite turned into a massive lead.
You said that,
for
and I looked over at the draft, and I'm like, there's not 2 carries, there's only the one.
Competition is the word I'm looking for.
Which
it's 1 and 3 on Zen, but has not culminated in a massive gold lead or itemization lead, anything like that just yet.
In fact, Zen hit 10 first, so realistically, Zen is down by 3, or down by 2, I guess, in this case, and still able to put a lot on the board. So real solid play, I think, from both teams to make it trade out. That one going 2 for 2, and then the red buff steal makes it come out slightly in favor of the Wardens, though, with just the way that the Storm have been playing, you have to be a little worried about it. Good aggression from Schlemy. I mean, exactly what I was asking for, where you go over, you force Zen's ult, but you just pull him in afterward. Beads were down. Now that the beads are back over in duo, Joshy is the one who's going to be a much easier pull. So I'm keeping my eyes on Schlemy, especially right here with the trebuchet. Joshy has to play this very carefully for another minute in order not to just become cannon fodder for the Wardens. And I think that's the kind of level of presence I want to see from Schlemy. I wanted to see, I mean, ideally, if you're the Wardens and you're a Wardens fan, you're rooting for this team, you really want to see another 9-0 performance. But since that's not going to happen, it is just presence of mind. It's just setup. Again, pulling people in. You've got good follow-up if you're the dodgy. And it feels weird to put so much pressure on just the jungle right now. And so I'll stop putting it all on Schlemy. I'll also say RelentlessOne, who has been, I think, in a very good spot. That fearless chain last time around, coming into the fight very late, but still into the fight. That was incredibly helpful. And we've been seeing a lot of tier lately. Good tier plays can absolutely win the game.
Wow, this is a big moment for the Xibalba Storm. Without a clear and obvious lead, they're going to pull the Gold Fury. Earthshaker, it's early, does not confirm the objective. In fact, it's reset. Xibalba Storm now backing away without all of their confirm, but again, it's reset. Nobody has taken the objective. The Xibalba Storm somehow get it. And Joshy gets a kill onto Griff as well. It's a fantastic start. A 3-man stun and a dunk from Dame sends this right back. And the Xibalba Storm have broken open the Kaolin Wardens and now chasing down the final 2 kills. Could it be the 13.5-minute deicide and Gold Fury? You couldn't have written it up any better. And Dame will arrive nonetheless. A double kill for the Ratatoskr.
Well, Geno gets out of there. But it's that 3-man dunk, not even the 3-man dunk, just seconds prior, that Fury. It is in an unfortunate spot, leashed by the Storm before Joshy's ult hits, actually might benefit them, because otherwise it's maybe 2 autos away, and Griff immediately picks the Fury up, goes for it. Beautiful island comes out from Oceans, pulls Griff and the Fury over towards them. And then poor Griff has nothing to do because he is locked down in the Fury pit, taking damage from both the Fury and the team around him. And so it's a good, not even steal, secure technically, kind of steal. Wild fight around the Gold Fury itself. And then a 3-man dunk happens. I mean, and look, like a 3-man knockup like that is always going to feel good for your team. And even the slightest amount of follow-up should result in one of those kills. Getting all of them, huge deal. Geno, able to get out, but killing 4 other players without dropping a single one. And you get the Fury. I mean, the Storm, rightfully so, should feel great about that fight. 4-0-3 again. And you have to go back to at this point right now, just looking at the picks and wondering if maybe this Ratatoskr should have caught a stray somewhere in there, because it is doing a lot for this team. It did a lot in Game 1, and I don't think Dame's slowing down yet. No. It's
simply too in sync is Dame with his Ratatoskr and the flow of how he wants to play it. Really took over that last fight. I mean, it was great setup on the initial stun and then the dunk provided by Dame after the fact. And again, that just breaks open this game. It was so close for so long. It's one thing if it's a couple kills here and there, but the fact that it's a Gold Fury and all but a deicide, 4 out of the 5, makes that feel terrible now for the Kaolin Wardens. But what we saw in Game 1, that you can't, it's so hard though, because in Game 1, the Xibalba Storm took this type of lead and then just kept running, kept initiating with Dame, kept running in with Oceans. The Wardens can't let that happen again, but I don't know what the answer is. Maybe Schlemy is still got to play aggressive, more strong on this Dajie, but you talked about putting so much weight on the jungle. Because in reality, Gore, matching the initiation of an Arthur, a Ratatoskr, and a Maui, not easy to do.
Pretty damn hard to do.
That is not easy to do, but you can't just let the Storm walk away with this game around the next cycle of objectives. You got to find a way to draw a line and find a place to fight.
Yeah, you've got to be willing to make not only the opportunities for yourselves. The problem really is going to be working around relics, right? Luckily, moswal and Schlemy get their beads back, and they get it in a time where nobody from the Storm was really looking for a fight, but all 4 beads that are bought on the side of the Storm are up on the side of the Storm. And so even going in with the powwow in a big team fight moment doesn't feel like it is going to be the breakaway maybe that Schlemy needs. And the fact that the game was all, like, I mean, absurdly even until that last fight really kind of shakes. I mean, look at that. Like, it's still skewing slightly in favor of the Storm up to a certain point, but then just that amount of lead is massive.
This is a big fight as well to maybe get back into the game. Oh, goodness. moswal nearly completes a kill on a Dame, and is Dame going to go in? He will. Didn't need to. Delnyyy gets the solo. The individual kill, rather. Not just a 1v1, but a solo onto Schlemy. Ocean's actually over in mid. Where did he come from? Snipes down. He'll have to wait out the Aegis. Oceans can tank this up for a little while, but here's a rocket. This is what the Kaolin Wardens need, an overextension from the Xibalba Storm, but you got to finish off a kill onto Zen. And it's Geno who gets it done. But Delnyyy is over from solo as well. Double stun from Oceans. And without Zen, not enough damage remains in mid. Joshy and Dame had gone back to base. Fortunately, Schlemy now, for the 4th time this game, has fallen. Just under half the kills that the Xibalba Storm have. Onto the opposing jungler. Zen, no beads, no Aegis. 2 and 4. But still ahead of Griff over on the other side as far as experience.
Honestly, the fact that they're able to get that kill, again, feels really solid. Like you said, ahead. But that one, the snipes, the first one connecting, but the Aegis being there, the next 2 being a little wide, little moments like that save moswal's life. It's look, in the grand scheme, it's maybe just a drop in the hat, but realistically, it feels very, very solid for the Wardens. You know, again, going back to game number 1, talking about like things feeling catharsis in general. Just living there, getting a kill on top of it, has to be a good little mental stabilizer for you, especially coming around the Fury. You know that Zen's ult is going to be down for a little bit longer. Joshy still has theirs, though, but if you can get a good pick early on, that could change the pace of this fight.
It's an early ult from moswal. Needed to happen because over in mid, Dame was diving. The new Earthshaker forces the Aegis out of Griff, and it is starting to become unhinged. InMyZen might die off yet again, won't get up into the ultimate. Beads forced by Schlemy.
Good
onto Joshy, a pull back in, keeps the Dajie in the fight. Won't dash away, Delnyyy with another. I was gonna say these next 5 minutes, important for the Kaolin Wardens to keep their Season 9 alive. But the last 5 seconds haven't gone much better. A 3-for-1 trade, it's on to Zen again. Really, it's just Zen catching everything, but the rest of the Xibalba Storm still way too far ahead.
The CC chains, man, it's just too much from the Storm.
Comp.
I mean, in that instant, we got to see stuns from Arthur. We got to see a pull with just the hook from Oceans, and then an island pull from Oceans. Of course, the knock-up, the stun that's coming from Dame, all of these being able to hit multiple people in certain circumstances. I mean, you are talking about the Storm just demolishing and picking apart the Wardens, and what otherwise felt like it was starting out to be a pretty good fight. I mean, you know, you get rid of Zen, like you said, feels solid early on. Zen didn't have relics, so it makes it even easier. And then you lose all of those kills, like you had mentioned, but everything for Zen, plus the Fury, plus now a Pyro. I mean, it is the Storm playing the map and playing these fights just better. And if they can get this FG, it might be talking almost curtains for the Wardens.
Fire Giant will get taken by the Xibalba Storm, not without an attempt from RelentlessOne. Schlemy has powwow. That's ult down from moswal, though, so this Nuwa is going to have to hover way towards the back of this fight. Has beads and Aegis, yes, but doesn't have self-disengage. Xibalba Storm right at the 20-minute mark. Grab themselves Fire Giant on 5, and there is a lot of gold to be picked up. 2 towers in mid and 1 on both left and right. And look, you know, this is not the type of game where the Kaolin Wardens can say, all right, let's readjust again. Let's see what we can get done in Game 3. This could end the set and their Season 9 if there's not a miraculous turnaround. And there's a big difference here, Gore. You know, I think we were looking at moswal in Game 1 saying, well, you know, you have the Earthshaker. That could clip a few members of the Xibalba Storm, chunk their health. That could steal away an objective and delay out the game. I'm not seeing the same big, sudden burst turnaround potential. Damage has just got to stack up. I mean, you know, think about Danzaburou from behind at this point in the game. He doesn't want to ride that rocket in.
No.
You know, he's got to sit back. He can't play aggressive. This is an awkward spot for the Kaolin Wardens. You've got to outplay the Xibalba Storm at this point. You got to do it heavily. It's something you've not been able to do. Now in back-to-back games, mid lane tier 1, an afterthought. Geno maybe hoping for a miracle play. He'll find Zen in the back, but he's alone. Zen just not under threat. Here comes the rocket. It stuns Delnyyy, who again does not care. One more pull in from Oceans. An Earthshaker used, snipes down from InMyZen, and the grouping strong. The Kaolin Wardens, though, they're dunked on. You can't group when there's a fed Ratatoskr on the other side, or maybe you can. moswal turns around a big stun for a double. This is a disengaged fight, a disoriented fight from the Xibalba Storm, and now the Kaolin Wardens, they smell blood in the water. You've got a numbers advantage, and you've got to find Zen, who steps forward, hoping to find autos on moswal.
Man.
He's got him. Zen heating up, and Zen feeling fine with the numbers disadvantage, and why wouldn't you? It's a push back from RelentlessOne, a double kill from InMyZen, and the Storm will not be denied.
I mean, talk about catastrophes to the Storm and to I don't know if there's a word for a worse catastrophe, but whatever that is, all the way for the Wardens. I mean, you know, Delnyyy, Dame, they dive deep. They get punished. It feels like it's going to be this massive turnaround for them because they get so many low health bars, but it does not work out. 2 kills right there, plus the defense around the tower. I think the Wardens, especially in hindsight, right? In hindsight, we can say this pretty easily. Maybe should have let their win fall right there and recognize that they have it. Unfortunately, get aggressive. They go in. Schlemy wants more. And, you know, he was 2-5 at the time. You cannot underestimate a late-game Hunter Zen. Good snipes at the very beginning of that fight, but no ults. Relics able to keep him going. But in that moment alone, it is auto attacks and good peel, good setup from the rest of the Storm between Oceans and Joshy. And you have to think, I mean, that's just devastating. A double kill right there after already losing 2. Suddenly, what was a very solid fight for you, if you're the Wardens, still results in a tower going down, still results in more gold. Gives Zen a Silver Branch bow finish. Everybody else is, you know, tier 2's up. I mean, in the jungle, there's a massive lead, not just the 3 levels, but gold-wise. Dame's even going up in the air. Okay. I don't know. I was wondering what was going on.
Just wanted to see what was what on the map.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, that's a good amount of vision. When you don't have that much wards, that's actually pretty helpful.
can do it. Why can't Dame? You know, that has been important, though. So now, actually, I mean, you'll get that ult back somewhat shortly here for Dame. But not super worried about it, that's for sure. This has got to feel, actually, I think, pretty good for Zen, where the early game was just let's shove as much pressure against the duel. If we're the Wardens, we're shoving as much pressure as we can against Zen, kill them off 3 or 4 times. The fact that a Ram that was, what, 1-3, 1-4 in lane has arrived to the late game, full build and ahead of the opposing Danzaburou anyway. Feels great for InMyZen. And Griff has put up, again, some of the best AD carry performances we've seen this weekend. So has Zen. There's been 2 heavyweights punching it out here in these last couple games, but there's just been a bit of extra support for the Xibalba Storm. Gonna have a Fire Giant in 15, and now you're going back to the conversation around steal potential. You don't have an Earthshaker, no snipe, so there's very limited steal potential. Send in a little bit of range damage from Griff, maybe a fog, tick damage, something like that for moswal, but nothing that you're favoring your chances on in a coin flip against an Earthshaker, of all things. There's going to be a grouping here from the Kaolin Wardens. At the 25-minute mark, the Xibalba Storm far ahead 11,000 gold or so.
Oh my
RelentlessOne feels the pain of that 11,000 gold differential and will stick around, and InMyZen will get back to even in the KDA. Now to Palau from Schlemy, who is left alone in the back. I love it from the Storm. They just ignore the Palau and walk forward. Griff is using the rocket to disengage, but the backline not safe because Dame is here and will have to dash out. moswal, use the Aegis, beads and Aegis off of Griff. Tier 2, couple kills, Fire Giant, why not for the Xibalba Storm?
Yeah, they do not pick up the FG yet, but getting that kill, and specifically for RelentlessOne, RelentlessOne goes up, down, I think thinking the team and the fight is going to maybe feel a little bit better. Crumbles underneath the damage, and I was actually going to mention it around that FG a second prior, which is mainly that with this build, Zen is not killing the Fire Giant incredibly fast. In a moment like that, you are relying heavily on just the fact that you have a better secure.
Yep.
Zen does kill tanks with this build incredibly fast. For RelentlessOne or Geno to be that far up is just a pretty big opening for the Storm. And makes it a lot easier for them to be able to kind of start knocking things down. It's also really good for objective kills. And so right side Phoenix going down is not very surprising. Honestly, this is going to be a big back anyway because you're going to be able to upgrade your starters. You're talking at least with 2,500 in hand. Whenever Zen gets back, not only is it a starter, but you have to imagine you can get, some upgraded relics. And even better than the starter, just sells it, goes for the OD bow. That's going to work well with the Silver Branch. Plus all the other attack items that he has in there. So not only is it playing incredibly well off of his own build, but I mean with the chin size, the Shadow Steel, stuff like that, I feel real bad for RelentlessOne.
Yeah,
and for Geno, but whoever ends up in front of Zen, they're not going to have a good time.
The Kaolin Wardens, Gore, they have put up a fight all weekend long to get out of the group. It was a very competitive North American region. It's a very competitive year from the Kaolin Wardens. You never quite knew what this team was capable of on any given day. Unfortunately, today it is looking like their Season 9 sunsetting against the Xibalba Storm, who are white hot. They've shown up here in Game 2. Now remember, not a advancement game for the Storm or the Wardens, if somehow they come back, but an elimination game for the loser of this best of 3. There's still a group stage left to play. And then a chance at the Smite World Championship. This is the last ditch effort from the Kaolin Wardens to dive in from Schlemy and Geno. I'm thinking, we saw this. We saw Dame.
Not with that damage.
Oh, actually nearly killed off by moswal. We saw Dame go in a 2v1 against Geno and Schlemy in Game 1 towards the end. If there wasn't a moswal ult there, I'm thinking he might be trying it again. So that does slow down the end of this game a bit. Dame's ult now missing, but so is moswal and Geno's ults. moswal is maybe more impactful. Geno likely not ulting anywhere too far away underneath the left side Phoenix. I think now you got to look for Oceans. A big island pull really opens things up while Dame's ult is down.
And again, you mentioned it last game. I have to give him credit while we have the time. Oceans, yesterday, I believe, was the first game we watched on this Maui. Not a very impressive performance at all. 1-0-15 now, playing out of his mind.
And in game one.
I think the setup, in game number 1, the setup is just too clean. And I think that they've got to be worried about it on the other side. A good fish hook or a good island. Not going to quite connect.
Whoa, but RelentlessOne goes in. Some damage out. Uh-oh, Dame. This would be a prize for the Kaolin Wardens.
Zen's low.
But that means the Xibalba Storm, they've got numbers on the left side of the map, but they haven't been able to get any kills. Suddenly the game delayed. Oh, look at this. Oh my God, Schlemy took the ult in. He shouldn't have. And Zen on a rampage to end this game. Crazy stuns from the Xibalba Storm. And that might do it for the Season 9 of the Kaolin Wardens. Somehow the Storm, in odd-numbered fights, time and time again, step forward into the space, and now step forward one step closer to the Smite World Championship group stages. moswal with it all to do will get damage and a kill on a Delnyyy, but InMyZen eyes the half HP Titan and sends the Kaolin Wardens home.
Zen went from 2-5 to 7-5. Zen played that game And again, in game number 1 was a beautifully played game on the ROM. I think that there's too many picks that this team has right now that you got to get them off of their team. Feeling too hot on the Rat. They're feeling too hot on the ROM. Those two immediately. But then you're starting to talk about meta picks, things like that. It's just there's too much that the Storm are providing. And being able to have that level of performance with the Maui as well. I mean, every step of this one felt like it was pretty solid. But it's not a through-and-through win the same way game number 1 was. This one breaks around that Fury. That 4-man fight super early on, plus being able to kill the Fury itself while killing Griff.
Great.
That moment really sent the Storm ahead.
That was a great start. Breaks things open there very early on in the game, and they kept that pace going. Congrats to the Kaolin Wardens on what was a great Season 9. They're able to get pretty far into this North American SCC Championship at the Xibalba Storm, just the better team here today. And the Storm still have some matches to play a bit later on, and we'll see how they do later on today. But that's it for our first set of the day, and we'll go back to the desk to close this one out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Xibalba Storm. Congrats on their win over the Kaolin Wardens. They are now 1 set away from being able to try and qualify into the SWC group stage. They'll be awaiting, well, the winner of our second match. But I think Gore puts it really well there, Charlie, where this game does not start off great for Zen. 2-5 to get these things going. Where game number 1, he was 7-0-7 to end it out. The Kaolin Wardens said, all right, cool, we're not going to let this Hunter get to go undying this game. They bullied him, but the problem is that the rest of the team started flourishing around him, and then by the time we hit late game, Zen swinging like a truck.
Yeah, there was a good stop there, and honestly, for a second, I thought the Horus play was going to be good, but I assumed Schlemy went back to base, got some HP, because after that pick on the Dame, Wardens were looking pretty clean. It was 4v5, they had their defense ready, they were like, okay, we got to the skies, and then immediately Joshy says, nope, you cannot fly in, we are destroying you, and we are winning this game and making sure this set is finished. I think that's exactly what the Storm needed to do. Can't believe Dame got the Ratatoskr again.
It's wild.
We're banning Yorm over Rat. That's wild. I guess they just didn't want to deal with the fact that Yorm can't be pulled by Delnyyy, but in this case, I think the Rat was a big part of the reason that the Storm were able to still find early leads. Yeah, you were able to put some pressure onto Zen, make this Rama get online a little bit later, but there was more members than just Zen that are popping off in this game, and I think the entirety of the Storm have had a fantastic tournament so far.
Yeah, I mean, they banned, Artio and Yorm in the bottom 2 on the side of the Kaolin Wardens when Dame had a 12-2 game number 1, and you decide to give that back to him? Kind of questionable in that regard. Some strange decision by the Kaolin Wardens in the picks and bans, and then the play on field. Again, for moments, started well, and then that was the beginning of the end right there when Schlemy dies the moment that he lands to the damage output of Joshy on the Vulcan. Great performance out of the Xibalba Storm. And really, again, kind of this digging through the trenches for this team, because you dial back to the very beginning of this week, and they go down 0-2 to DameNWK, and from that point onward, it has been nothing but an uphill trend for this team. Sure, they fell to the Eldritch Hounds earlier on, but that's not an easy team to beat by any metric. No team has been able to do it just yet. But I've also got to give a shout out to Oceans, who has been playing this Maui consistently throughout the tournament. Didn't look particularly great on it in his first couple of games, but every single game that he has been playing, he's been getting a little bit better each and every time.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what the team has been expecting, right? Well, after that loss, they've been able to turn up, beat teams that they should be, and also beat teams that maybe you'd assume they wouldn't be able to. And also, they've been playing the picks and bans super well, and that's a big part of this tournament, is getting picks that you're comfortable on number 1, but make sure those meta gods aren't getting through, forcing moswal onto things like Nuwa, where, yeah, he looked good, and yeah, he was top damage in the game, but Nuwa usually is. I think they just had a fantastic set of getting those comfort picks, and didn't really seem like anyone wanted to take those comfort picks away from them, which is surprising. So the Storm have shown themselves to be quite a dominant force so far, and I'm excited to see what they do next.
Yeah, I think you're right to highlight that the drafting has just looked really good for the Storm so far, able to net themselves 2 wins by measure of not only picks and bans, but also the play on field. We can take a look at the bracket, though, because we still have 2 more sets to go before we get to even figure out who those 2 teams are going to be moving on to the SWC group stage. And both of our next sets will determine who those are going to be. Next one up is the Eldritch Hounds and the Athenian Sages, to see which of those will be the first of the 2 teams and will be your quote-unquote NA Seed 1 moving forward into the group stages for SWC. And then after that one, match 15 will be the loser of that match will then get a chance to face the Xibalba Storm for one final opportunity towards qualification for the SWC group stage. And It's going to be tough for the Athenian Sages. No team has been able to even take a game off the Eldritch Hounds so far this tournament. No one's been able to take a set off them in the regular season. Feels like the Eldritch Hounds have all the momentum that they need and have all the onus to be able to win this set. It's going to really feel like it comes down to the Athenian Sages stepping up to take them down.
Yeah, and that's what you got to do, especially when you're up against a team as tall of a task as taking on the Hounds is. You just got to remember, hey, they're still human. You know, we got to play our game. We can knock them off early. There's a few bans I think taking away from Oath could be problematic, but you know, it's not going to be easy, as you've said, and I think everyone has seen so far how dominant the Hounds can be when they're on point.
And no SCC team has been able to beat the Eldritch Hounds yet this season. Will the Athenian Sages be the first of those teams to be able to knock a peg down for the Eldritch Hounds and force the Hounds to have to go for another round of qualification? We'll find out all of that and more in our second set of the day, coming up right after this break.